Hello there and welcome to today's vlog. Thanks ever so much, as always, for joining me. I wanted to take you back to the 1990s when I was just starting out in ministry within the British Methodist Church. And we were living then in the area of England called, or known as, the Potteries, Stoke-on-Trent, and known as the Potteries because that was a place where lots of firms like Wedgwood and others were churning out all sorts of pottery items. Still very, very famous firms, some still active in that area. So it's known as the Potteries. I was there. I was minister of 5 churches, Methodist churches in the area. And I remember on one occasion, it still stands out to me, because I was invited by a friend to go to the other side of the city to speak at a meeting in her church. I can't remember exactly what it was about, but anyway, I went along. I didn't know the area, that side of the city, so I took with me, of course, this was in the days long before SatNav or mobile phones that you could use to direct you. So I took my trusty A to Z map and got somewhere in the area, and I thought about it, check on the map to see where I am, and I struggled because it was dark by the time I got there. Street lights were on, but I really struggled to read the map. And that was the time before I had glasses. So it was then that I realised my eyesight had deteriorated somewhat. So I went along to the optician and was prescribed some glasses. So ever since then, I've had to wear glasses. People have suggested what about contact lenses, but that's never really appealed to me. Now, glasses can be a bit of a nuisance, as you know. Sometimes they get dirty, you've got to keep cleaning them. Sometimes they get steamed up. It was particularly noticeable during the pandemic when we had to wear masks when we went into public places. And of course, when you put on your mask, your glasses tended to steam up. But there you go. It is a benefit. So I go back to the optician every couple of years, get my eyes checked, sometimes have new prescription for new lenses. And no doubt about it, if I take my glasses off, things become quite blurred. But put them on and they come into clear focus. Usually, anyway. A couple of early this week, anyway, I was out in my early morning run, and it was at that time still dark, and of course I always wear my glasses to make sure I see where I'm going, don't trip up over anything. But unfortunately, it was quite foggy, misty, and as I was running along, slowly but surely, little droplets of moisture began attaching themselves to my glasses, and the further I ran, the worse was my vision because of the droplets covering my glasses. So in the end, I had to take my glasses off, put them in my pocket, and run without glasses. It wasn't perfect because things were still a little bit blurred, but it was better than running with your glasses covered in droplets of water. So I've been thinking really about this whole subject of our sight. And there's not only our physical sight, but our spiritual sight that I've been thinking about. I came across this quotation from that Jesus gives in Matthew 13. He quotes from the prophet Isaiah, and he says, "This people will listen and listen, but not understand. They will look and look, but not see, because their minds are dull, and they have stopped their ears and closed their eyes. Otherwise, their eyes would see and their ears would hear, their minds would understand. They would turn to me," says God, "and I would heal them." So sometimes we can appear to be looking, but actually not seeing. Certainly in the spiritual realm and often in the physical realm. Sometimes I walk past something and I've just not noticed it. My eyes have been open, so clearly in vision, but I've not noticed it. It could even be a friend that I've walked right by without seeing them. I love this story in the Old Testament, in the second book of Kings, chapter 6, where the prophet Elijah is there with his servant, and a great army comes against them. And this army appears on the face of it to be overwhelming. And we're told when the servant of the man of God, that is Elijah, got up and went out early the next morning, an army with horses and chariots had surrounded the city. "Oh no, my lord, what shall we do?" the servant asked. "Don't be afraid," the prophet Elijah answered. "Those with us are more than those who are with them." Now that didn't seem to make any sense to his servant. All he could see was this great army surrounding the city. He couldn't see how they're going to resist that great army. But the prophet said, "Those who are with us are greater than those who are with them." And Elijah prayed, "Open his eyes, Lord, that he may see." And then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked, and he saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Sorry, I might have said Elijah earlier on. It's Elisha, the one who for a while was following Elijah, then took over as the prophet of God. So it is Elisha. Elisha could see, not with his physical eyes, but with his spiritual eyes, that although this great army was there, greater by far was the heavenly army that was there to protect them and win the battle. So we may be looking, but not seeing. And I just finish with a quote, a well-known quote from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13. I'm reading from the Message translation. He says, "We don't yet see things clearly. We're squinting in a fog, peering through a mist. But it won't be long before the weather clears and the sun shines bright. We'll see it all then. See it all as clearly as God sees us, knowing him directly, just as he knows us." So in our Christian journey, in our spiritual life, there may be things that we can't yet grasp. We need to ask God to open our spiritual eyes. But even if we cannot see, we need to trust God, because God sees what we cannot see. God sees the big picture. God has us in his hands. We can trust him, even though we cannot see how God will work it out. We can trust the God who sees all things. We are in his hands, and he loves us with an eternal love. So that's just a few thoughts on the whole area of vision. Lord, open my eyes. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today.